All right, let's see if we can get back up. We're up. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today's July the 8th, 2025. It's now 2 p.m. We're here for a special session in the Hunt County Commissioners Court. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order, and we have Commissioner Hutchins, Monroe, Smith, and Harrison present. I'm Judge Stovall presiding over the meeting. This time, we'll have public testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The Commissioners Court cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Concerns will be addressed by county staff. They may be placed on a future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. Is there anybody here wishes to speak? Don't think about it. All right. I don't guess we got anything online. All right. I'll close the public testimony. No old business, new business. Number one is fiscal year 25-26 budget. Sandy, did you bring the medical insurance? Yeah. We got new rates in this, was it last week when I was gone or this week?
He sent them out Friday afternoon, and I did not grab them, but they all have them in the packet.
Okay, so if y'all look, I think we said earlier we were leaving it, he first told us just leave it at the same, and it was 14.02.
1402.
Yeah, and it's now 1333. How much? 1370, okay.
So we're saying around 300,000.
Yeah, we're gonna save like $300,000 on insurance this year, which, if y'all remember from the judges meeting I had a while back, most of them were in TAC and they were all scrambling trying to find a different insurance because they'd gone to like $1,750. Of course, they're all different depending on claims and all that. They're not all exactly the same, but they were all complaining about TAC. Unfortunately, I guess they lost the head of their insurance department. He died. Is that not true? Is that right, Steve? Oh, he's just our regional guy. Okay. Anyway, so I think our insurance appears to be looking good. We've kind of held the line on where we were 3 years ago when we started this. So we're still kind of right where we were. We hadn't gone up much. So that was the goal. Joel Littlefield's supposed to come here and present some changes to his budget when he gets out of court. Y'all want to continue the discussion we had going earlier on the road crew?
David, you want to take off?
I guess. Where do y'all want to go?
Nope.
No.
No,
not
'cause we're
talking
not
about an
talking
individual.
We're not talking about individuals.
individual employee. We're talking just about the group as a whole. I guess what we need to talk about is, do we want to continue the road crew as they are now, or do we want to add on to it, or do we want to make changes to it? Do we want to do away with it, or do we want to add something else, or where do we go?
So for the new guy, would y'all mind kind of listing the things that you see as needs for improvement? You know, as far as how you see that the crew would operate best?
That'd be great.
Well, for one thing is it sounds like we need to clarify, and that's what David and I was talking about a while ago, is we probably need to make sure we clarify with them of what is expected every time they go to a precinct, which is they're supposed to get with the foreman, commissioner, a week, give or take, before they move into that precinct, and y'all clearly mark what y'all want done with them, because when they're in your precinct, they work for you. And so y'all need to make sure that, they have guidance on what you're expecting of them when they're in your precinct. As we all know, right now we're getting murdered with the amount of grass shredding and all that we've got done. Is that something we want to look at? Do we want to Do we want to change it where those 3 guys, when they come to your precinct, they're just 3 extra workers and you can put them out to do what you want to with them? Do we sell the equipment and go buy tractors and shredders for them? There's all kinds of different options. It's just what everybody thinks their needs are for their precinct.
Can you keep shredding going year round?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think for all 4 of us,
Probably
it's
should.
going to be that away, especially this year with the Johnson grass and stuff the way it is. It's going to be a year-round job for the most part. And then once we get, kind of what we're expecting them or wanting them to do, whether it's the shredding or working in the precinct or keep going with the ditch crew, then we can kind of lay out what we expect from the foreman and employees on what they do.
So when you talk about, what's going to happen in your precinct, are you really just talking about in advance, what's the plan for them when they get there?
Yeah, what way it's been, and again, we kind of talked about it earlier, is starting off with this, they were getting sent out to go patch holes and go change tires and do this or that. Well, we bought the equipment and established a road crew to come out and clean ditches and put culverts in ahead of us that were going out to, reconstruct a road, or if we've got bad drainage problems or something like that. And if we need to put them where, again, they're just 3 extra employees in your precinct for that month or whatever, but it's up to you guys as the commissioner and your foremans on what job or what function you want them to perform while they're in your precinct for that month. But again, they've got to have a little bit of heads up time. If they're moving equipment, there's no need in moving it from my precinct, Wool City, and going, all the way down to, Quinlan for you when you need them up somewhere else. So they've got to kind of have a little bit of a heads up of where they're needing to move to. If we keep it with the ditch or even shredding, they've got to have an idea where they need to move to from one precinct to the next.
One thing I'd like to see if we do, if we keep the crew as it is right now, there's a few things that, my opinion, that needs to change. And number one being is those guys go to Commerce every morning and they check in over there, and then they come to whatever precinct they're at, and then in the evening they leave in time to get back to Commerce to get clocked out. At best, we're getting 6 hours a day production out of them, and I bet it's not even that much production. So I think they need to check in at the precinct where they work, where they're working that month. They check in at that precinct, and they answer to that commissioner and to that foreman in that precinct that month.
Was there some reason that we did it that way, or is it just the easiest way to go about it at that moment in time? Was there an HR reason?
Well, no, it has nothing to do with them.
Okay.
When it originally started, don't put it off on them. When it originally started, everybody that started with the road crew lived over in Precinct 4 area. So it was easy to, and again, we talked about it earlier, of some of the dysfunction that was up here on the court when we started the process as well. And everything, the fuel, everything was being done out of my yard originally from them. So they would come there, fill their trucks up, fill their stuff up, and then go to the job site wherever they needed to go to, which they still do. They fill their truck up from my fuel tank every morning, and then they go out and they just log it down and we turn that stuff in.
Not the most efficient, right?
No, but again, nobody else was willing to step up and help out and share their barns or anything like that at the time, so that's just the way it's been.
Well, at the time, we couldn't hire anybody except over
In
here.
the other precincts, yeah,
Everybody at 1 and 2 couldn't hire anybody.
yeah.
Well, to fix that problem, like you were talking about, they get fuel out of your tanks and stuff. Could we not, like, I don't know what their fuel budget is a year, say it's $100,000. Can we just split that 4 ways and you put extra $25,000 in each precinct in the fuel line item? All we have to do is put a fuel sheet in with our fuel reports, and then when they're in your precinct that month, you just fill out, they log it and we turn it in to
I mean,
Stacy.
they can come to your barn and fill up from your tank and log it on your log. That's not the problem, but we need to figure out what direction we're wanting to go with them. We're trying to get in nuts and bolts of what we're wanting them to do, but we were started talking off of whether we're gonna keep them as a road crew digging ditches or shredding or what we're gonna do with them.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to tackle first is what direction do we want to give them from here on out? And, you know, maybe you guys want to go back and talk to your foremans and figure out what, you know, what everybody's thinking on it. And then, once we decide that, then we can clarify better on what you're talking about, David.
Yeah, part of the value with the crew as presently constituted is that they've got the machine, none of the other precincts, I don't think any of the other precincts own one exactly like that. Which has been good because we've got backhoes and, you know, other ways to dig ditches, but that one is handy for some projects that we'll kind of put aside till they rotate through the precinct. So that's pretty handy. If we're going to potentially change the kind of the scope of work, I think generally it'd be better to outfit them for whatever task they're going to be asked to do. So that way they're maintaining their own equipment and overseeing that part of it, because it can be tricky sometimes to if you have people moving in and out of your yard doing that equipment share thing. So that's going to cost some money if we were to do shredding. Might be a real good investment. We're getting eaten up by shredding as just like everybody else. If it's not, you know, grass in the summer and spring and fall, then it's leaves, it's trees, branches in the wintertime. So right away maintenance is a year-round thing for sure.
So it almost sounds like while both might be good ideas, necessity is almost have to do something on the mowing side right now.
Yeah, if you were to change their scope and make it just very generic, as if they're just, you know, more precinct hands, then I think it loses some of its value. And at that point, you might as well just, you know, divide that budget back up to the precincts and let them go hire some more people or something. But prior to now, they've had that pretty a unique, at least for me in my precinct, a pretty unique function. So we have certain types of jobs that we will reserve for them to do when they come through. It's not that we can't do them, it's just they got the nice machine for it.
Yep, makes sense.
Well, if you go to the, again, I'm not part of the discussion really, but what I'm hearing is if you need to do the mowing, and could you sell off one of the dump trucks and then keep the excavator and just let it be shared by everybody and not necessarily the road crew have to use it, and then buy shredders to mow for now? Or does everybody have enough shredders when you get there that you can just put them on your own equipment and let them go
I'd
shred?
have to buy one. Mine, the one I do have, is wore all the way out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think if you know, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If the direction is the shredding, then we need to figure out what we're wanting to sell off from the ditch side of it and see if it's enough money to go buy some shredders, tractors and shredders.
To me, on that big excavator, I'm just talking for my precinct. We don't need one enough. To me, it's cheaper to go rent one when you need it than to have it sitting around year round.
Well, if they're not gonna use it year-round,
Yeah.
you're correct. Now, obviously, if that's what they're doing full-time, then it doesn't make any sense to go rent one.
Right.
But if your concern in your precinct is shredding, obviously it's the same for all 4 of our precincts, then maybe that's the focus, is we look at trying to get, you know, 3 tractors and shredders and send them out that way. But we would have to sell off some equipment to be able to do that.
Yeah.
well, so just to outside looking in, right? So.
You're inside looking.
Okay, inside looking at y'all, how's that? So certainly we're learning, right, how to do shared services amongst us. And so unless we have equipment that's excess that, you know, everybody or every precinct or whoever says, look, I don't use this anymore, you know, I think it'd be a little bit premature to go sell the excavator or sell, you know, a truck if the truck's being used before we even know if the idea works and how we make it work between us. Is there any room if we went and looked at budgets, you know, in places where we might have something to where that we went and, you know, found 1 tractor, 3 tractors, whatever the magic number is, and do a short-term rent? I mean, you know, take a 3-month here during the growth season, trying to see how we would make this operate. At the end of 3 months, we let them go back and we come back in here and we say, okay, didn't work, need to change this. We need to buy equipment because it was a good idea. Would that be a reasonable approach, or does that not make sense? Too late in the year?
You
Is
can
there,
rent the equipment. I don't know if you can rent the
I was gonna
equipment.
say, do y'all know of a place where we
I
can
don't
rent
know
a
of
tractor?
anybody. that
I'm
rents
working,
tractors.
I've been begging.
Yeah, I think we all.
No, it's a pretty high impact, high wear and tear piece. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's not as common.
Can you just rent tractors and buy a couple of shredders? That'd save a lot of money.
I don't know where you rent
I don't
a
know.
farm tractor.
Do what?
I don't know where you rent a farm tractor.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, I've got one that I was told that we did in the past, so I'm headed to see him at Hunt County Tractor Supply. Brian Fox did it one time years ago. I did stop at Buchanan's. I had them that close, and then they said no.
To rent them?
Yeah, to rent one. And of course, everybody's worried about, well, if it breaks down or whatever. And I was like, if it breaks down on me, I fix it. I mean, it's that simple. If we owned it, we'd fix it, so.
Well, if it's your fault, if it's not your fault,
Right,
then.
right.
Well, y'all wanna hold this for a minute and let Joel's walk
Sure.
in? Let's get him in.
No, we were waiting on you originally.
Come on, we don't wanna sit here and look at you that long.
You're enjoying conversations about mowing? I've been watching you in your front yard. You've been
That's
mowing.
My wife makes me mow twice a week, so.
He's trying to learn a more efficient way to do it, so he have to do it twice a week.
I haven't found that yet, unless, at least I have a riding lawnmower for a little yard, so. I think that y'all wanted to talk to me today about the visiting judge line item that went from the request, 2425, I think was 12, and the proposed 2526 is 34. In regards to the 34 number, the formula that got to 34 may not be correct. The 34 number may be what it eventually is in the end, depending on some situations. But let me go ahead and start back at the beginning, what I think the actual number is. If you look at the vacations and sick days, that would be if there's a 3-week vacation, 3 weeks, 6 days, that's how I kind of want to start and looking at that. If I did the vacation, my court has to be in session every Monday and Thursday at a minimum, due to the fact that my court also hears mental health commitment cases. And by statute, I have to have hearings on those cases within 72 hours from the time that they are filed to do an order of probable cause. In other words, to either release them or hold them for a full hearing. And so that means on Mondays I have to be there and Thursdays I have to be there. If I'm out on vacation, if I'm out sick, if I'm out at conference, I still have to have those days covered. And sometimes I can have Judge Linden fill in, but sometimes we're at the same conferences, so that doesn't work. If he has a large docket, that doesn't work. If he's in trial, that doesn't work. So there's some times that we can fill in for each other, or sometimes that we can't. In regards to if I'm out sick, same thing. And so looking at vacation sick, and then on my conferences, if I'm out, and I think in the initial request, and I think that's section D, let's see, section B. I put 20 days of continuing education, although that may be the days. Looking back at that, that number for days would probably need to be 8, not 20. So vacation would be 7, 6 would be 7, and conferences probably 8 days of the total year that I would be needing a visiting judge. To me, that totals 22 days instead of the 40 days that I think are listed on there, 25, instead of the 40 days. The rate goes up based on the judicial raises that were passed in Austin. So the daily rate looks to be, I think, $910 plus judges, visiting judges, I believe, get a per diem of $25. So you're looking at about $935 on those 25 days.
So the state doesn't pay any part of the visiting judge for y'all?
I don't, I don't think so. I did not get an opportunity to check with that. I was able to contact Alfonso Charles, who's the judge out in Gregg County. He's our administrative judge for Region 10. I was able to talk to his secretary. He was in court, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I did have a question on that. I know that district judges are compensated from the state, and I believe that state money flows into the region,
state,
like
I-
Region 10.
Yeah.
And then Region 10 doles that money out throughout the year to the judges when they need it. I know that because at our annual meetings, it's discussed whether or not there's more money that can be used for visiting judges. If you need a visiting judge for any reason, for trials, or need, additional days of court, and you need to bring a visiting judge in, we have extra money, ask for it, and you will get it. So I know that the administrative judge in our region handles, I believe, based on that information, the money for the state for district judges. As to how much, or if any, the state pays the county court at law judges for visiting judges, I don't know the answer to that question. I will attempt to get back with Charles, but to be honest, I don't know.
Well, the reason I'm asking is, because, of course, the district judge's salary comes from the state, not from us.
Mm-hmm.
And if they get a visiting judge, the state pays for it.
Yes, correct.
But in y'all's case, in the county court at laws, the state pays
Pays a
half of your
portion.
salary.
Exactly.
And so if you're going to have a visiting judge, it looks like they would pay some portion of that.
I don't know the accounting. I don't know the payment on that. I will try to get back with Judge Charles again. It was late yesterday when I tried to get with him. He's not available
Right.
for that conversation, but I will definitely, because regardless, I would like to know that answer regardless. So I'm going to attempt to get with him. But if you
Joe?
look at that 22 days, which I think are probably bare minimum, that's 935. And my math is not good. I use my calculator on my Apple phone. I got $20,570. So I think that's probably the bare bones number. When I say bare bones number, let me go on. I'll always do the best I can not to have to use that money. But my belief is that I give you a number that I think is accurate. Whether you approve it or not, that's fine, but I got to give you the number that I think is accurate. I will try not to use it, but I don't think that you want me to give you a lowball number and then come back and then we're not able to budget appropriately because I didn't give you the correct number, and now I'm coming back and saying, I don't have enough money, give me more. I think that is an accurate number. I hope can do less than that. But there's two things that doesn't touch on. One is travel. I believe y'all know how desperate we are in getting court reporters. I think that's been brought to the court's attention before in the trouble with getting court reporters. I know many commissioners' courts and many counties had to raise the rates that they pay those individuals to get them.
I think we recently raised it, didn't we?
Yes, I think y'all did. But we do have that kind of an issue with visiting judges. Now, why I say that, we're not competing in regards to pay. The pay is fixed. But a lot of times in the past, what I have done is done a half day. I just need you for a half day to make sure on those mental cases, just try to keep that cost low. It's been very difficult to get judges to be able to visit on certain days. It's hard to get them. I suspect, and I don't know, but I suspect maybe one of the reasons is on those half days. If they have other opportunities to go somewhere and they're getting paid a full day, I only suspect that may be a reason why it's difficult for me to get visiting judges sometimes. They're already a short supply. I can only imagine if I was a visiting judge and I had an opportunity to go somewhere for full day or half day, I would take the full day. But in regards to that, if they are not local, and we have Judge Thomas who's local, I think that's the only one that we have that's local now, when I say local in Hunt County. If they are outside of Hunt County, we have to pay a
Mileage.
travel. And so that doesn't include the travel. So there could be more money for that. But again, I think the 25.70 is probably a closer number to being accurate. The other number it doesn't include is recusals. And I'll discuss recusal a little bit. If you have any questions on that or anything else,
I got a
let me know.
question, Joe.
You bet.
Hey, real quick, just so I understand, so your budget year 24-25, you had 12,000 for visiting judge.
Yes.
And as of today, you've used $1,926.
I think it's more than 1920.
Well, it may be, this
That's
was,
at the end of
March.
March.
yeah, this was the end of, so,
I will say, so I had Amanda not long ago look at these numbers, and I don't know how billing's being done. I don't know if the billing is coming in timely from the visiting judges, if it's going first to, if it's maybe even some of it may be paid out of the administrative region 10. I don't know. But I know that if the amount of visiting judges that we've had based on the previous rate, we'd be well over that. And getting to the next point, one of the reasons on recusals, I know I've had at least 2 recusal cases, maybe 3 this fiscal year. Judge Linden may have 1. In regards to recusal, just for those that don't understand what that is, or to clarify, sometimes we have to recuse ourselves, and it's not because we can't. The most of the times that we find recusing ourselves, it's not because we are biased or we are going to have a bias. It's because of the perception of bias. And the courts don't want someone to have even a perception. And so there are 2 active cases I have on recusals. One is going on day 5, I believe, and it's probably going to go another 5 or 6 days minimum. If you look at the money, if they charge that, that's $10,000 on that one case. The other case I know had 3 or 4 days. I think that one's resolved. That one was pre-trial case. But if the judge charges appropriate time visiting on 4 days, that'd be $4,000. So when I say looking at these numbers, there's a potential at the end of the year it could hit 30,000, depending on the recusals. And that initial number that I sent out to y'all had 34,000, and it said it didn't include recusals. Most likely that would be a top number. I think the more accurate number without recusals, and I don't know how you would budget recusals, it'd be hard to do. But if we just did something based on no recusals, I really think the total would probably be $20,570. And again, it may go up a little bit more than that, depending on mileage for the most part. I would try to get it significantly under that by cooperating with the other judge in regards to trying to take time off or if we're sick to be able to handle each other's docket. I know, for example, Judge Linden is gone on vacation. He had some things that came up a couple days ago that they were going to get a visiting judge if I wasn't available. I was available to hear it, so we were able to do that and not incur that cost. So I hate, that it's money that's spent. I always like the court to be open as much as possible so that litigants can come in there. But obviously, we can't afford to keep it open every day that I'm gone on vacation. That doesn't make any sense to have a visiting judge come in, spend $1,000 to have one litigant hear their case, especially when I can schedule around most of those things.
So the way you calculated it isn't actually a 1-to-1. That calculation includes the recusals in an estimate.
Well, the first one was 1-for-1, and that was my mistake. And going back and looking at it yesterday and the day before, that's what that more or less is, that $34,000. That's almost a day for day, me being gone, having a visiting judge. After looking at that is not probably an appropriate budget request. The appropriate budget request to me would be on those absolute days that I can anticipate having to have the judge come in and visit, the daily rate on that. And then since I cannot compute or know how much the mileage is going to be, I don't know who the judge would be. We'll obviously use Duncan as much as possible. Hopefully we have some other judges that are in Hunt County that could visit in the not too foreseeable future. So that would help reduce the cost on that.
Well, Joe, what I don't understand is 22, 23, Your visiting judge cost was $72.68, and 23-24 is $44.20, and through 6 months of this year is $19.26. That's a pretty big leap to 34.
Well,
What's
and-
changing?
Well, Judge, nothing's really changed. I don't know where the money is being paid out of. There is it could be a possibility where that's being reimbursed from Region 10. And
Or
I
being
can check.
paid
So
for even?
what's that?
Or even being paid for out of Region 10, maybe?
That's what I know, and virtually Amanda, my court coordinator's gone today, but she's the one that receives the bills from the visiting judge. And what she does send them to Region 10. Now, I would assume that they still can find their way back here, or that they're paid for back here. If these are reimbursed by Region 10 or somewhere else, then that money wouldn't be needed. But it is my understanding that the county pays that. I could be wrong. I will attempt to find out.
Well,
But
Mary, is there a revenue line for these guys?
We just need to look back in the previous years and see if there's reimbursement.
I'm listening to what you're saying, and I do see invoices come across to be signed off to pay them, but they're far and few between, and these numbers that I'm looking at, the judge is quoting, are what I have seen go across my desk. So I too will look into this and see if I can pinpoint if somebody else is paying the bills.
And it may be, and I will tell you, I probably have more visiting judge than probably Judge Linden in regards to, because of the need for the mental health court. But he would probably have about the same
Well,
amount.
he's asked for the same amount.
He'd probably ask for the same amount of days and need the same amount of days.
Right.
So what I can tell the court is that where that money comes from, where it gets paid, I don't know. All I can assume is that I am going to need, and again, I think I miscalculated in the initial submission of the 34. I think what I can really say is that it's a 22-day, which would come out to about $20,570. If the county is the one that pays that, it would be that amount. And again, I would always try to come in as less as possible. As many times if I can use half a day, I'm going to use half a day. And I know in the past, I've been able to do a lot of half days because Judge Thomas is local and he does not mind doing half days. But when he's not available, it's nearly impossible.
Well, why don't you look into it, and Mary look into it?
And would you like me to get back with Mary first, and if there's any other
We
questions?
ought to compare notes. You ought to compare notes at least.
All right.
And see if we can get the answer of, if there's an explanation that maybe we're only paying a piece of it, then maybe we don't need to go up as much or whatever.
And then, will this go ahead and count then? So y'all, as an amended budget request, instead of the 34,000, the 20,570, that's what I think I would at most need, not being able to factor in
20,000, how much?
20,570.
Right.
Obviously, that does not include recusals. I just never know if I'm going to be recused or not. But again, I will get with the OCA, I will get with Region 10, I will get with Amanda, and Mary, I'll get back with you, and I'll let you know as much as I know.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, Joe, it's,
Any
we're
other
all on
questions?
the same page and understand you need some money for visiting judge, but looking at the numbers that we have, it looks like you're not hardly spending any, so we just need to,
Yeah, and I
we
don't,
just
We're
checks and
hoping
balances
somebody's
and
paying a
find
bill
it.
for you.
I'm hoping that's the case as well.
Right.
So that would be the best solution, is that someone is paying that. So, fingers crossed. If there's any other questions I can answer on this, I'm happy to. I can't speak for Judge Linden. I know he's on vacation, but we went through this together. I would only imagine that he would probably
They were very
request
similar.
the reduced 20,570, not the 34.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Joe.
I appreciate it.
Anybody got any other questions, Joe?
Yeah, real quick, on the operating supplies, you had a little bit of a jump there from about 11.5 to 16.562. Is that just kind of an inflation?
It's
increase,
inflation, but
or-
it's also on the biennium. That's when the legislation happens. All the legislative changes are made to the property code, code of criminal procedure, civil rules. And so it's great for people that make books and sell books, but every year, every 2 years, we have to update our books.
Also did that electronically.
There's some stuff that we have electronically that we do have, and that's Westlaw, and we're able to look on that. But we do also have the print books. And so for the most part, it's every 2 years I try to update. Sometimes I'm able to not update and go an extra session if something hasn't changed dramatically. But the standard rule is usually every 2 years after there's a change that we get new books.
Okay?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Joel.
I'll get back with you as soon as possible. Thank you.
When you're looking at that, would you look at Judge Linden's too, because they're the same? The district judges is a little different because the state pays them. Yeah. On the district judges, we have to pay per diem and mileage for them to come, and we don't pay any salary. What do we pay? We pay something, but the state pays $1,000 a day to them, and then if they have to stay overnight here, we pay for a hotel, or if, of course, most of the time they get Judge Beacom, and he lives in McKinney, so he just drives back and forth, so we pay him mileage, and maybe a per diem for lunches or breakfast or whatever.
Most of the time on a district judge, I only see about $500 coming across the desk.
Out of county court at law, they must be paying half of it, yeah. Okay, back to the other conversation. Do we need to get two people just to go butt their heads, or you two go talk and you two go talk and y'all come back and combine it, or what do we need to do?
I think there's a conversation where it's a little bit of, it's having a conversation together and says, this is what we want it to look like.
Right.
I don't know if that's in this room, if it's a workshop, if it's.
Well, it's the same, it don't matter,
Yeah.
workshop's gotta be in here in this room.
But throwing in I think the foremen are part of this conversation. I just don't know if it's step one or step two that they're at it, because those are the folks that are living with it every day and executing with it. It sounds like everybody's, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater on the ditch crew, but it certainly sounds like mowing is a burning platform. If we don't deal with, we have a problem.
What
I
if,
mean, is there anything wrong if we try to set up a workshop, as Gary's calling it, just with, obviously you're involved if you want to, but involving us four and our foremen sit down and just all of us talking it out and seeing what everybody's wanting to do and kind of.
well, I mean, again, workshop's no different than this.
Well, I
And so
understand.
I mean, so we could do it either way, but I guess my point was, what if y'all did it twos and twos and got your foremans together and two of you talk with your foremans, the other two, and then we come back into a meeting and see if there's any big differences. That way you're not going back and changing so much with 4 people. I mean, you get 8 people involved, I think it's gonna be harder to get.
That's when it's most fun.
Well, yeah, you may enjoy that. I don't. I don't have a dog in the fight, so y'all figure out how y'all want to do it.
I'd
making
rather get us
suggestions.
all in the room and let's cuss and discuss and get it figured out. That's what I'd rather.
Well,
do.
Friday, we got another meeting. Y'all want to get your foreman to come up here and?
Yeah.
It is Friday, isn't it?
9 in the morning Friday, yes.
I mean, this is a big deal to get hammered out, so we need to get it hammered out.
I agree all together is gonna be better.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Can everybody get their foremans up here on?
Mine won't say much, but he'll be here.
I
maybe-
may not be here 'cause I think he's on vacation, but I know what he's gonna say.
Okay. Whatever you tell him to.
No, he already told me. I called him at lunch. or before that, so.
All right, is that good? Then we'll talk about it on Friday, and y'all can get your foreman together, and y'all can have conversations between now and then with them, and then come in ready to try to hammer something out.
What are we hammering? Let's make sure we're on the same page so we come in on.
Trying to come to a solution of what y'all want to do. Leave it alone as it is, or change it up and go to a mowing crew, or whatever y'all want to do. I don't care.
Well, I think we all generally have identified right-of-way maintenance, be it mowing, tree trimming, whatever it is kind of our biggest area of need. And so making sure, getting up with our foremen, making sure that we're all on the same boat and what the needs are, and then we can work from there to figure out a solution.
Good by me?
And then, I guess another big part of that is, are they gonna show up at the precinct to go to work in the precinct they're working for at that time?
I think it
And-
needs to be all part of that whole discussion.
Right, and then does that change the crew, the way they want to come to work? I mean, are they gonna still work for us if they have to do it that way? So at some point, we're gonna have to ask that question, say, if we change it this way, I assume since they have a truck, that truck could just go be parked at the next precinct for a month, and they drive their vehicles, get in the county truck, and then go. Is that my understanding? Is that correct? Is that what they do
I
now?
think that's to be ironed out, but yeah.
They have a truck. I mean, they have
That's
to
what
have
they
one.
do today,
Yeah.
but that might be one of the things we want to change.
Yeah. Well, that needs to be talked about. See, when they move to another one, do they park the county truck there and do they bring the equipment in every night? I mean, it's a big excavator.
No, it stays out.
It stays out on road.
They come in, right now they come into precinct 4, their truck's parked there, they clock in, get in their truck and then go wherever they've gotta go to.
Okay. All right. Sandy, you got anything? Well, I guess, I'm gonna go back a little bit and, we've been hearing quite a bit. And we've had quite a bit of, requests. So for a first proposal, do y'all want to see the request that was made to the court and we discussed? Do we want to put that in the budget and end up seeing where we're at? Or do you want us to come back without that in it? I mean, we're gonna have to play some give and take a little bit, but which way would y'all rather see it first?
Sorry, Judge, could you say that again?
We were having.
How would you rather see it? Take the sheriff's budget, leave it without his 5 new people and all the expenses, leave it like it was, and then have a total number what that's gonna cost us somewhere else? Or do you wanna go ahead and put all of it in the budget that was requested, so we know what it totally ends up being, and then go back and try to cut from there? How do we wanna?
Can you do it 2 ways?
Well, with Mary's new program, we can switch it
I
back
mean,
and
it would
forth.
be nice to see, without, huh? Yeah, if we keep where we're pretty much at right now, what does that look like? And then if we add in all these employees and all this other stuff, what does that look like?
Okay.
That's my 2
Load in
cents.
a requested budget, decide, your prior budget, I'd like your actuals, but no, it'd be estimated.
I've just about finished my sheet, so I can send that to you that shows all of the changes, because I have all of that on the one, the big one that I did.
The proposed new employees for different departments?
I did it all. I mean, I changed all the current employees and then I added in who's wanting what. The only thing is like, I know you two are doing away with the position and moving to part-time, right? Is that correct?
Mine's already
And then
that way,
I need to
yeah.
know what your part hourly is, so I know how much to put there. Cause I don't have those exact numbers. And y'all's are staying the same, right? Yeah, so.
What's the most an hourly can work? Is it 20 hours? 20?
24.
20, they cannot work 30 hours or more over a rollback period of 12 months, or we have to pay, it's the average.
Okay.
We have to pay their health insurance for the next year, if not. So we try to keep them around 24, 25.
Per
That
week?
way if they work over a couple weeks at 40, it's still an average of under that for the rollback year.
As long as everybody understands it.
Yeah, I've got 2 part-timers and they both work 3 days a week, 24 hours each,
Okay. Seasonal or year-round or
year-round.
year-round?
Because if we load everybody's budget in as they've requested it, then we could see, what percent, how many millions of dollars, whatever the answer is, increase is. Her tool will break it down by department, so we'll know where the issues, we could actually do some roll-ups, that could actually just show that on charts rather than having to go through dig each one. And then we could talk about where the opportunities and the trade-offs are. Compliant, want, need, and desire, what those things are amongst those. And it gives it all at your fingertips.
Okay. So now, I mean, the way we have been doing it, I look at the proposed and see what they've done in the past, and then I may agree to it or not agree to it. So do I need to even look at them and just put in what they're requesting?
I think you should do both. You should look at it, see what you, based on your past, you've
Right.
got that carnal knowledge of how we got here, and then as we go through it, you can add color
Okay.
to it from your back.
Well, that's kind of what we started out doing, is just putting in the requested amount, and then we're gonna go back in and put the proposed amount in, which is my proposal. And then we can put in the request whether or not I approved it or didn't approve it, just so everybody knows what it is.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you, Gary,
Oh.
but if I heard and understood you correctly, I like that approach as well. And it kind of gets us to the point of having a preliminary budget where we've got everything that's requested compared to what the years past has been, so we can identify where the increases are. And at some point, we'll have our estimated revenue, so we'll know what we can say yes to, what we can say no to.
Yeah, because we're gonna know what our revenue was this last year, and so whatever the increases are, we can see what the impact of that is. If it was a 10% increase based on what you already are getting a feel for, we know that's drastically gonna be an issue, so we have to start figuring out that. I think a goal would be as close as we can on what our costs are by the time we get to the point that we know the revenue. I know it's not gonna be 100%, but how close can we get to
Well, in
that?
the revenue, I've already said that, the 1.6 or 1.4 million that we got for ARPA funding, that's not gonna be there this year. Now, we may have some amount of money there, but it's not gonna be that.
Yeah. And we have a deficit, so we can start having that conversation,
Right.
what do we have to do to offset
Yeah,
that?
we started with a deficit of 2.2 or whatever it was. So, I mean, that's what I've been trying to get. I mean, if we're gonna try to hold it, I mean, we really can't accommodate much.
Right.
Because we're already starting at 2 million in the hole, so about all we can do is either get raises or give no raises and then accommodate the request. That's about our two choices, or blending there I mean, if we do give everybody the raises, we're pretty much out of gas if we're gonna try to leave it where it was.
Absolutely. And I think this will get you that visibility before it's an emergency to get to answer. Because it's simple. If most of it's a wash, there's going to be a little bit of pickup. I'm sure everybody would agree. The difference goes to precinct 3. And then we.
Yeah, right,
The new guys.
yeah, that,
That's not how it works.
but again, for the, if we're, it's just gonna be hard to grant too much if we're gonna try to get out of a deficit budget.
Yeah. So I think the important part is, to your point, and if you can't grant too much, then we all need to know what we're not doing. And that, or what the challenge would be for whatever department it is, and so.
Yep.
Because if we have needs that are outside that, right, you have compliance issues, we have things that we have to do, and it exceeds the difference, then we have to have a different conversation amongst us.
Right.
My opinion, and I've never done this before, so you guys are a lot smarter at it than I am.
No, we just pull stuff out of the air. All right, anybody got anything else, or?
My goal, and I think everybody else's is, I want to wipe that deficit out, because we can't keep operating like that. I mean, you keep kicking the can down the road, eventually you're going to have to face it one day, and I think it's easier to face it right now while we kind of somewhat have the financial ability to do it. And so I'd like to wipe it out if possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great goal. I'm afraid that we may have to
I
take it.
mean, it's going to be tough to get there.
Yeah, we may have to take a fourth of it this year or half of it this year and then shoot for the rest of it next year. But we can make those decisions as we get closer to the,
Yeah, when you have numbers, it becomes
Yep.
the decision gets clearer.
yeah. Well, for the most part, everybody's asking for the same thing. So the budget's going to be pretty much the same except for the new request.
Yeah.
There's not any huge, even the one we just heard, that was a $20,000 request over their budget from last year, basically. And really wasn't that much when he dialed it back down to 20. It's a $6,000 or $8,000 request. So, and, you know, the bigger request was the sheriffs and the others that asked for additional employees. Those are the bigger ones. And, so that's where it's gonna be. And if we do that, there's no way to get it, cover the
Yep.
deficit. Yep. All right, if nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 2:49.
Mark, that was very enthusiastic second. We are out of here.
Thank you for your time, Chad. We know there's no place you'd rather be.
Actually, today,